Well, guys, we're doing another early stream, and I'm going to tell you what happened. Um, I took a series of naps yesterday. I was very tired because I tend to stay up late and then get up early. Um, like it's very common that I'll go to sleep at, like, let's say 3 in the morning, and then wake up at for example, probably 9 or 10 in the morning. But usually around, like, in the 9 o'clock hour, I can be expected to be up. And then I always remember that it's always a race for me to try to, like, get up to one of these places before 10 o'clock so I can say I was early in one of my streams. Um, so I took multiple naps yesterday, and then the person I was in the room with today, they actually stayed up. I went to sleep. I think it was around two something. They stayed up until almost 5 in the morning. Um, and they were, playing some stuff or whatever. So it woke me up, and I just decided, because I do feel a little tired, as far as, I didn't get a full 8 hours or anything close to that, but um, the amount that I have is not. It's not like I'm just gonna, like, just fall over and sleep at this point. I'm not, just on the brink, and I'm actually sitting here next to some very rarely ever purchased Starbucks coffee. So I'm gonna see how it tastes. I don't think I've had this kind before. It is all right. I thought I'd be more open to giving some kind of, like, glowing review, but it's okay. It's not anything too. I mean, I never get my hopes up all the way with this stuff, because when I've never had it before, I don't really know what to expect. Uh, there's a drink that's pretty similar to it that has some kind of caramel type deal going on, where sometimes I mistake them for each other. So yeah, I've got my sweetener to go through. I've said before, if I was like a really big streamer, or someone that had like a whole bunch of it was like getting enough attention, or where I was getting, I don't know, some three-digit number of ad revenue off of, like, every stream I did, I probably would actually make it a thing to just, like, get something from here each time, because it would, whatever I'm getting off of here referring to YouTube, would more than make up for it. But I've already said before, I think their stuff is not priced the best, although it still isn't as much of a ripoff, because this is way bigger than that crappy little shake at Chick-fil-A that I often, mention as being garbage, just in terms of the pricing and how tiny it is. Um, but still, I would rather have, just show them a little support sometimes, whatever. It's not going to be every time I come up here. It's not even going to be every other time. But I here every now and again, I'll get something and just kind of be like, all right, well, thank you. But yeah, I didn't get into this during the last stream, because the only one that showed up was Akatsuki Merchants, and I was kind of surprised by that. Although I'm used to streams where we don't get that many people, but it's like, wow, even lesser than that. Um, I was going to mention it, but I didn't, because he was the only person here. There's a current saga that I'm going through with this employer that I'm trying to start working for, and it's been kind of a cartoonish esque thing, where it's, because we talked before about how, with a lot of these modern jobs, it's never just, okay, you go in for an interview, and after you go in for the interview and you get hired, then you go up there, you fill out some papers, then you start working. It's never that simple, maybe 2-3 step process to just start with one of these places. With many of them, they want you to sit down, sometimes for multiple interviews, um, and then they want you to have either some type of papers or certificates. And in addition to that, sometimes they want you to take certain shots or tests. And that's exactly what's happened during this process. And maybe we'll get more into it if people show up. But it's been a really irritating arc. And I'm just going to say that I'm a person who's normally very much because I've said before, I'm someone that wants to get a job, wants to be hired by somewhere, whatever. But when you have a place that is hiring you part time, so for like 4 6 hours, and it's starting to feel like it's a hassle just to even start working for them. My motivation to do all of the stuff that they want me to is just not as strong as it would be if it was a place that was full time asking for some of the ridiculous stuff that I think they're asking for. Haven't actually had these with me in a while. That's because usually when I come up here, I have the what do you call it? The man, it is so the sky just looks completely deceased. But I was saying, usually when I come up here, um, I don't have these with me because they're in the house. So I decided to to dust them off and bring them out for the first stream they've been on in I don't know how many months. But yeah, it's been a really irritating week or so. As someone who's now been driving, I'd say daily since for what 4 full months, end of December to now. It's amazing to me how little time I actually spend driving at night. So sometimes I'll forget to turn the light off or on when I'm like, like let's say you get out the car, you just forget to turn it off. Uh, because I just from seeing some other people who drive, I don't remember them ever having to like manually press it to get it to start or not. So that's always what kind of trips me up. And I've even mentioned before that one of the worst parts of my vehicle is having a car that locks by itself and always having to be worried that you'll end up locking yourself out, which did happen to me back when I first started with it at the beginning of the year. So there's still little stuff that trips me up. I do think I'm getting better at parking. And actually, I was going to mention this because it's pretty interesting. Um, I have noticed a pattern where if you don't park somewhere that's like right at the front part of a street or right at the back part, you'll have a person who will come out of nowhere and just box you in. So last night I went to a hospital, um, and I parked down the street, and I left enough space to where somebody could conceivably be in front of me, and then like I put as much space I did between me and the person behind me so that they could just, if they get in their car, for example, they could just zip right out of there. They just go up a little bit, turn, that's it. Again, I'm trying to do that so one more person can park, and then the person that's behind me has enough space to just get out and go, without any type of issue or oh my god, I'm boxed in. So when I came back, imagine my surprise when there's and the person who's in this car is actually still there when I get there. There's a car parked right behind me. Probably like my car's right here. This is their car. So it's like it's enough space to where you could feasibly move back a little bit, but it's not that much. And then there's a car that parks right right in front of me, like to where um I'm I'm very confident they might have actually hit me. Like that's just how close they were to each other. And when I see this, I do a very loud groan. I go, "Oh my god!" And I do that because I'm worried about hitting one of these people's cars. And I know it's gonna be a hassle to get out. So I get in the car. I wait for the guy to leave because if something happens, I don't want him to try and like get mad at me. And it's like being sandwiched between a whale and a giraffe. I scoot back a little bit and then tilt the steering wheel to the left side, then scoot back. So pull up as I pull the steering wheel to the side, then scoot back more, and then pull up to the side. It took me about 7 or 8 times of doing that to get out. And I felt proud because I didn't hit anyone's car. I didn't want to hit anyone's car. I fulfilled that particular desire. But I was also frustrated because it's like I really thought I was doing something nice, but okay, I'm gonna leave space for one person to park in front of me, and I'm gonna have enough space to where the guy who parks behind me can just zip right out of here. And that gave those people, I guess, the leverage to just be like, all right, well, I guess I'll box this person in. And what actually ends up happening a lot of times, in my opinion, is that people, when like especially at night, when they see a car parked somewhere, they probably think that the person is like just done for the day. They're not going to come out anytime soon, so they can park here and there will be no issue. Um, that's my theory. That's me giving them the benefit of the doubt. They probably just don't think anyone's going to come back as soon as I did. It was after like an hour or two. But yeah, it was really annoying. I haven't that irritated in a while. I almost wish I could have recorded myself like seeing those two cars, like one's parked in front of you so much to where you would almost think that it did hit me, and then the other one gives you a little tiny bit of wiggle room, and you have to keep backing. And then when you move forward, you turn a little bit. Man, that was and it's on one of those roads where people they're not like driving a lot down there, but you have to like also be mindful of the fact that someone is going to come on that side to like just go forward. You might end up like maybe just barely grazing them or whatever. So that was uh that was very unenjoyable. In the future, I'm gonna try to see if I can find places to park where there's either gonna be no cars, or I'm gonna pull up right in the front of the lane, or I guess where the cars are parked, so that that thing can't happen anymore, where somebody parks right behind me or right, because I've had that happen at least twice now, and both times were very miserable. And then somebody actually parked their speaking of parking, somebody parked their car in a non-parking space. And at first I thought, okay, they're probably just like maybe gonna go in here for a second, whatever. But it's been there since I before I started streaming. So I feel bad for whoever is parked there. I hope they don't come out anytime soon because it's gonna be a problem. 'Cause I know from experience, when you have someone who's parked somewhere and they feel like they're trapped, it's not a very pleasant picture. Yeah, it's just been a irritating week. And like I said, my thing with jobs is that, and I've been very consistent with this. Their purpose is supposed to be to where they allow a person to take care of themselves. Um, and part-time positions upset me as much as they do, and they turn me off as much as they do, because there's not even an illusion of being able to take care of yourself. Like, from the second you sign up with that place that they're not going to give you enough hours to actually have any semblance of a chance at living. But then on top of that, you have these places where I'm not even joking, like, because we I was discussing this with some guys on the one of my streams, where we were talking about how some jobs will purposely sabotage you. Like, they'll schedule things that coincide with the schedule of the other place you're working for, so that they can like trip you up or make it to where the other place gets rid of you. Oh my god. Oh, these touch screens, I tell you. I always have to remind myself that the brightness on the computer actually really messes with the battery, like, to levels that actually kind of surprised me, because I was thinking, you put it on full brightness, I'm sure it's not that big of a deal, but no, I've seen the difference in terms of how much battery I have left after a 2 hour stream with full brightness versus one without it. Now, of course, if I was streaming at the place, I wouldn't have a problem doing that, because I could just plug it in. But when I'm over here, that's always a bigger concern. Yeah, I've very rarely been someone who's tried to sugarcoat the way I feel about things. Um, like I was very honest about, hey, I don't think this stuff is going to work with these jobs. I think a lot of them play with people. They, make it sound like they want somebody. But really, I just feel like I'm always going to be stuck in this revolving door of you apply for this place, they say nothing back, or if they do say something back, um, you know, it's more like just BS. And then after this doesn't work out, whether you start working there and get fired after 2 to 4 weeks, or you don't work there, period, you're gonna have someone who comes out of nowhere and wags their finger. You should have done this, and it's just such a hassle. Apart from your voice, what do you mean, Aaron? I don't understand. When I shared your video on Facebook, I just always. Well, I mean, with that, I mean, I feel like by the tone you can tell it's a joke. Like it's not. I'm not serious when it comes to like saying certain things. Um, but as far as like, hey, when I'm giving like legitimate analysis of what I think will happen, I'm not going to pretend I don't believe what I believe. So, for example, I'm very open about the fact that if you're looking at that Republican primary, just to throw something out there, um, Elder and Scott have no chance of winning. One, because Trump is just evaporating everybody in the polling. Like he's at 50%. Everybody else is at, like, again, besides the sandpiss, at 3, 2, 1. But the other problem they have is that Republican primary voters, at least in presidential elections, do not like black people. I mean, again, we've seen this with Alan Keyes, with Herman Cain, with Ben Carson. Like that's it's just a reality. It's a fact that they don't support them. And sometimes they'll poll well, like at the start of the race, and maybe in one state or two. But as far as like, you know, oh damn, this African American candidate is the front runner. That's never happened. In fact, if I remember correctly, not a single one of the three I mentioned has ever won any states. So, like I said, you won't see mainstream media or even a lot of the I'd say like commentators who call themselves being, more down with the internet. A lot of them will not mention that stuff because they don't want to, just be honest about the fact that these people just do not vote for African American candidates. Honey tone sarcasm. I actually had some what kind of bread is this? Let me see. I was gonna say it was a honey loaf, it's lemon loaf. I was gonna say we found a way to make the taste match we call it the tone match the taste of the bread. But it turns out I misspoke. Good day. How about when a job doesn't hire you because you're overqualified? I haven't seen that happen yet, but I know it. I've heard of it occurring. It just kind of seems like a So my thing is, if a job says you need experience to have this, right? And then you have experience, and it says you're overqualified. Well, I mean, hell, what is you get where it's like lunacy at that point because you'll not hire someone because they don't have the experience, but then when they do have the experience, you have like certain degrees of it that you would prefer. It's weird. I thought your response to the political hit piece deserved to go viral. Oh, thanks. No, Aaron, the most random video will get attention. I'm telling you. Like I'm really not joking. Sometimes when I upload something and I see the amount of views on it, I have to like do a double tick. I'm like, really? That's the one that people decided to go and click on over and over and leave all these comments on. Okay, whatever. It'll be the most random video. You won't have a unique thumbnail or maybe like you were funnier in this one, or there's like some higher production value. It'll just be the most random video that gets a bunch of attention. By the way, I didn't even get to make a video on this, but when DeSantis announced his campaign in that Twitter, what was that, a live show or audio feed or whatever that stupid thing was, and it was crashing, and then Trump took somebody's AI video where it's got DeSantis, Musk, uh, a certain German chancellor, Cheney. I was like, have you allowed all comment in your settings and allowed clipping? I think so. Look, some of these features you gotta understand. When I started doing stuff on here, they didn't even exist. Like there was no clipping feature, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Um, Comments have always been a thing, but like even with that, I don't think they had the option to just close a whole channel off to comments, and you had to go video by video and do it. But yeah, in almost every instance, I mean, if I see something that I think can noticeably improve the chances of getting seen, I allow it. But there is some stuff where I'm just not as used to it because again, shorts and clipping all the rest, it wasn't a thing back when I started. It's just kind of like creeped up on me. They just changed the settings and all your settings are strict by default now. Dude, that reminds me, speaking of by default, there used to be this really stupid thing, and I hated it so much. It was one of the most annoying things I've seen on this website. There used to be a feature called category, and when you make a video, it asks you, is this a drama? Is this history? Basically like, hey, what does this video fall under in terms of like how would you describe it in one word? And because I was trying to like be kind of comedic with some of my earlier stuff, I put comedy, including, and it would when I would upload something from my phone, usually because that was my main like thing of uploading from, um it would automatically put it in the comedy category. And because every video was in that category, I'm not joking, I've had at least two idiots ask me, you put this in comedy, so are you playing with us? And I'm like, imagine how, because they left this on one of the romance videos, for example, right? I said, imagine how insane I would look if I made a video about the news, which I did, right? And no one ever, people saw it was in the comedy category, but nobody ever said, "Oh, are you making this up? Is this fake news because you have it in this?" Like, you know what I'm saying? Of like, who even looks at the category and tries to use that as the basis for discrediting the points of video? Like, I can't actually argue against anything you're saying in the video, so oh damn, it's in the category comedy. You must be playing with us. Like, it's just so weird, man. People are crazy. Nah, that wouldn't be among the most weird comments I've been asked, or questions rather. I still can remember the guy that was asking, where all those different guys asked me, "How tall are you?" And then every time you answer, give it like a month or even less, somebody comes around another stream like, "How tall are you?" I'm like, all right, well, to hell with it, because every time, what's the point of answering a question if you're just gonna have to keep answering it over and over and over again? Because the thing about celebrities, for example, I'm not even trying to compare myself, I'm just giving you an example, is that if someone wanted to know what, let's say, what their height was, they can go on Google and Google will tell them. They don't have to act like confront the person or get like a measuring tape or whatever. They can just go on a site and look it up. So when you have to keep saying this over and over because people are too damn lazy to like go and look and see if you've said it, answered it before in a stream, it's just like, forget it. $3 for this. Hell, I'm gonna need a damn super pack out. If you eat at Starbucks every day, you need hey, what's that one DeSantis pack called? Friends of Ron or something? We need a friends of. They're gonna be like, hey, we got to put the bill. Oh man, these places, dude, they charge a lot for nothing, you know. Like I can see myself getting the drink again, but I'm probably never gonna try to get the bread anymore. This is my last loaf. Like I said, man, these places are robbing people blind. But like I said, I don't feel too bad when I go and decide to get something from one of these places because it's not a thing I do normally. Um, I do think we should at certain points be allowed to treat ourselves. Like I had one person who was making a point of like, oh, you always order stuff off the internet. It's like, yeah, but if the stuff you order off the internet is not expensive, I don't really see the problem with it. Still laughing at the person that was like, you bought a $7 book, you should be able to pay half a thousand a month. I'm saying, man, some people don't even like they don't even try to say something that makes sense, you know? Like when you speak to them, they just come up with something. They're like, oh, this must be true. No evidence, no proof, but they just believe it. Some of these places are out of control with prices. One avocado toast cost $8. And like I said, my problem with the price of this stuff is that you chew it and then you're hungry what? 2 hours later? 3 hours later? You know, I gave the example of how I would get fries from the market and I put them in the air fryer and I would eat half of them for lunch, so like at 12 o'clock, and then the other half for dinner. And if I eat them, let's say 5, 6, 7, 8 hours apart, I don't eat anything else for the whole day. Like that one little $3 thing I got fed me for the whole day. But that's why I said that it's really crazy to me that people, I mean, basically when you realize that you can find food that can full you up that's like under $10, then it makes all the fast food places seem like they're crazy as hell. And that's one of the reasons why I really liked my conversation with Akatsuki merchant, because we were talking about, for example, Chinese food is expensive, but they give you a lot of it, so it's like a trade-off. And that's my thing. Like, I'm not against more expensive food if there's enough of it. Like, for example, if I go to somewhere like Wingstop and they give me I don't know, 12 pieces for 25, that which I don't even know what their prices are. I haven't been there in so long, but just if I'm ordering, let's say 12 pieces, I know I'm not eating that all in one sitting. So, it's one of those things where I'm more understanding when it comes to the quantity in comparison with the price. If I feel like it's a lot, I'll do, more to, like for example, this is a fairly big drink, so I'm not upset about this being $5. But that little tiny piece of crap at at Chick-fil-A, that's a whole other issue. I'm like, you guys really want me to? They're out of their minds with that thing. It went from $2 at the end of last year to $4.50 by April to now it's $4.99. Like I said, if I was some big huge YouTuber, I would buy that shake just to stick it in front of, like, on the stream, just to show you how small it is. That's the only way you could get me to throw money away on that crap. And I like shakes, but again, if I want one that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, where I actually feel like I get a decent size for my buck, I'll go to McDonald's. Damn, and they keep the same size but increase the price. Yes, because like I said, a YouTube Titan. Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment, but the numbers don't reflect that. But anyways, what I was saying is, Zeal, it would make a lot more sense to me if, for example, they now the shake's $5, but now it's large too, right? It's this big shake. Like, then I would have no issue whatsoever, because I would say, okay, well, if the size increased, of course the price is going to increase. Like that makes sense to me. But if you're going to keep something at the same size as it was when it was $2 and bump it up to 5, that's nuts. And I mentioned this as well, from the same restaurant where you can get a $3 large lemonade, you have to spend $5 for a small shake. Now tell me that makes sense. It's like they know on some subconscious, even if they don't want to admit it, because employees, they like to cover for the places they work for, but they know on some subconscious level the prices that they have are out of control. That's why the the large drink is $3, and this is like, you know what I'm talking about. It's they know to some extent that shake is overpriced. They know it a little bit. I don't think they're going to drop it back down, at least anytime soon. I think if enough people don't buy that crap, they'll probably, I don't know, maybe lower it a little bit. It would take a big boycott of that thing to even get, because these places are, they always double down on their goofiness. But as long as it's at that price or anything above $3, I'm not getting it. I went to the market one day, and they were selling those like not gallons, but like they're about this big, the liters of soda, 3 for $5. I said I can get 3 giant liters of soda. The altogether are probably going to last me, if I drink some every day, probably like 2 to 3 weeks. Whereas I can get this stupid shake, this tiny shake that won't even last me 20 minutes or 10 minutes for the same price. I'm telling you, every time I've been up there, I've never seen anyone buy that thing. Like, since they increased the price, I never have seen a single person be like, "All right, give me that $5 shake, that $5 small shake." So that's why I say I think people know to some degree. Like, yeah, that's insane. A YouTube Titan. It'd be really nice to actually, like, have the plaque and be like, "Oh, I went on there and all I had to do was just speak and people listen to me." Because from what I've heard, apparently they don't just give you the plaque; they want you to, like, I guess, email them or ask them, "Hey, can I get this?" because there's this one guy. I don't watch him. My brother does, but he had over 100,000. He was like, "Hey, where's my plaque?" That's why I said this site is so screwy, man. I do think it could be more engaged than they are. I gave the last Outlaws some tips for the settings, and they got a huge bump. Well, like I said, I'm less concerned with subscribers than I am with views. Um, Again, you have to understand when you've had the same number of subs for several years, you just kind of were like, okay, well, I guess that I've reached my peak. Like, I've largely been satisfied with the views. They're on average higher than they've ever been. Like just consistently, they're larger than what I've seen in past years. So again, I'm not against getting more subs, but if they don't come, I don't really care all that much. As long as people watch, I'll be more satisfied. I'd hate to end up like TYT and have 5 million subscribers, then you can't even get 100,000 views a video. Because 100,000 out of a million is a tenth, so that means they can't even get a tenth of a fifth of their subs to watch them. Hell, for them to be getting 10% of 5 million is 500,000. Yeah, they can't even get that or anywhere close to that usually. So that's why I said I'd rather just focus on trying to get more and more views. Oh, I know they do. That's why I got on that one guy about him talking about, oh, I support you and I'm a lurker. I'm like, dude, you see what video have you seen that's gone viral that has any respectable number of views on it and there's just no comments? Like, oh, I like your channel so much, that's why I never write anything. And then I got rid of him because he started writing weird stuff. Anna's voice is is too piercing. I can't listen to that much Ray. I tell you, my favorite thing about her was when she said that she was made fun of as a child for being called, like she was called overweight by one of her teachers as when she was a little kid, trying to push that body positivity stuff, right? But then during the Alex Jones um, breaking onto the set of TYT at the Republican National Convention, she yelled at him and said, and these are her exact words: "Get off the stage, you fat expletive." It's like, so you're the same one who wants to tell me about how people shouldn't insult people over their physical appearance, or at the very least over their weight, but then you tell this man, "Get off the stage, you fat," and then yeah, like that's why I said these people just they can't be consistent at all. And don't even get me started on Jenk. The feud with him and Jimmy is really funny because it's comedic to know that they were friends for like 10 years. And even and when Jimmy left TYT, they did like a whole Jenk did like a whole video but like segment by himself, like, I'm gonna miss him and he's been so great and da, 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 da. And then when he ran for Congress that same year, he went on Jimmy's show to promote himself. And then what, a year later, now, and beyond that, now they hate each other. It's just that's a heck of a turn, man. So I said, people just it's snakes. Like, there's no way I'd be friends with 10 years for somebody, and then it's all over, and now I'm gonna be complicit and trying to accuse them of harassing someone at the job, and even though we could never bring this up while that person was there, but now that they've left us, we now suddenly feel so harassed. Very convenient. Always interesting the timing of this stuff. Man, that's where people go from. First it said 7, then it went 4. The numbers always just flip and switch and turn around and go upside down. I was really gonna go up to that place today, but I can't because they're closed down just like everywhere else. Yeah, I feel really bad for Aaron. He wants to promote Marianne, but I don't think they're gonna cover her. They're doing they're doing the Marianne blackout where, like, every time they see her having an event, and I guess that's what drives me crazy. Like, the Democratic primary is, and the people that are like supporting the candidate, referring to Biden, they're so demented that they will sit there and wag their finger at Trump supporters and Republicans for, like January 6th. Oh, we need to protect democracy and election integrity, blah blah blah. But then when their party wants to either rig its primary to suit Biden by not featuring or mentioning the people he's running against, or even getting him to debate them, or wants to just outright pretend that there's no opposition to him, they're complicit with it. They're on Twitter saying, "Well, they don't have any real chance of winning, even though they're polling at 10 and 20% after only being in the race for a few weeks. They don't have any chance." And it's like, you have to explain to these bastards, whether you like Biden or not, if you are a true supporter of democracy, you're not going to try to say that he shouldn't debate his opponents who are polling at double digits. I mean, and it's like, I remember the 2020 race where you had to reach a certain number of donors, right? People that donate to your campaign, and then also on top of that, be polling at least 2%. And it's like, how the hell is it that it doesn't make sense to where all these candidates were able to debate each other while polling at just 2%, but then the two that are polling at 11 and 20, they don't get to debate Biden at all. So I said, man, elections in America are such a joke. Just like, like, sometimes it's not even about like the actual campaign itself. It's just all little dirty, sleazy stuff that happens, and people are fine with it. There are really, like, regular people, not DNC bots, regular people on Twitter right now going, "Why does Biden need to debate his primary challenges? I mean, they're only polling at 10%. I mean, why does he have to talk to him? Come on." I swear, man. The most backwards democracy in the world. I remember I was telling my friend this joke about we're the only country in the world where you can get the most votes and still lose. Yeah, and Marianne qualified for the donation threshold for the third debate, but not the polling requirements, and quite a few polling institutions hadn't even released polls at that point. Yeah. Well, what I'm getting at is the DNC, the Democlown National Committee, is going to try as hard as it can to take its dying old man incumbent and get him over the finish line without it being a legitimate race. If they were fair, they wouldn't be talking about changing the first primary state to South Carolina. If they were fair, they wouldn't be questioning whether they're going to have any debates or not, or to have some requirements that weren't there during 2020. So Williamson really, again, if we're being if fairness was being applied here, you would see when she gave a major speech at damn, I'm forgetting what university it was, but I think I'm talking about. It was like live streamed, right? That would be covered on CNN. That would be covered on Fox. They have to play the whole damn thing, but they could play pieces of it, right? Um, they would actually invite her on to these shows. The DNC would say, "Hey, we welcome the competition," but they don't do that. The weekend at Bernie's campaign. Well, what happened is that when Sanders ran in 2016, they underestimated him and he ended up winning over 20 states and they started freaking out. And when he ran the following time, it was extremely difficult to ignore him because he for most of the race prior to when voting actually started and really up until right before Super Tuesday, he was the front runner. He was polling ahead in damn near every state that wasn't in the South. So I'm just saying that with Williamson, she doesn't have the name recognition because her campaign from 2020 just wasn't as effective as Sanders from 2016 was. But I really do believe that if enough of her supporters go around spreading her name, like for example, if I ran for the House and they asked me, what do you think of Biden? I would say I prefer if Marianne Williamson beat him, and then people would say, who's that? And I would explain it. So like even me running for office myself still is an attempt to boost her candidacy because I'm actively promoting her, as part of like I'm not saying like it's a share ticket, but like, hey, this is who I would prefer. Because there are going to be people who will say, who is that? They don't know who she is. She was just on with Hassan and MSNBC, but they had to frame it like she can't. Yeah, I hate that so much. You're a long shot. We're all damn long shots until we're not. And like I said, what drives me crazy is we're not talking like this. We're not in January of 2024 or February or March of next year. We're not even halfway through this year. Williamson has all of June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and January to get her name out there. I think she's off to a good start, but because we're dealing with these crazy, cynical people who just expect things to change overnight, they tell you, oh, long shot, long shot, long shot, long shot, long shot. And I just get sick of hearing it, man. Like, that's why I barely even watch cable news other than to just sit there and laugh. Like, the only news places I go to where I realistically want to hear about what's going on um, is really just the Hill. Because they have some stories I don't see on other places. But CNN, as far as like just any of these different cable networks, I pretty much just watch them just to have something playing in the background, or maybe there's like a politician who goes on there and I want to hear them speak, for example. We gotta get your channel on commando mode for your run. I don't think my channel would be of any real help to me in a house race because people don't tend to get excited about congressional races anywhere near as much as presidential ones. So I'm not going to be too jazzed about trying to spruce this up. In fact, actually, it could be a liability because you have people like he's just doing this to make himself bigger on YouTube, or look at what he said about these women, even though it's accurate. But still, look what he said about just so. I mean, it's whatever to me. I might not even include or mention that I'm running. I could just run and be like, all right, well, I tried, and then I'm secretly like going around town campaigning. You know what's really sad? I remember Williamson ran for the House in I believe it was 2014. And what's really disturbing is because we've been talking about like all the Democrats in Congress are just too cowardly to take a stand against Biden as far as like withholding their endorsement. Like, hey, I'm not satisfied with him, so no endorsement for me. What's really kind of disturbing to think about is if Williamson had won the House seat back in 2014 and stayed there is a very good chance she may not. And again, I'm just going off of how the other ones are acting, but there's a very good chance she not only would have not run for president this time around, but would be like, oh, I'm endorsing Biden because they're all doing that. That's not an indictment on her. I'm just looking at a pattern that I'm seeing from these office holding Democrats. That's why I said they would do everything they could to make sure I didn't get anywhere near actually having a seat in the House because all that little unity crap, sitting around and playing kumbaya and wait your turn. We blow up their whole system. They are held hostage. There's a reason why. And look, Aaron, I get you don't like RFK Jr. That like anywhere near as much as Williamson, but I want you to really think about this. The only two prominent people challenging the sitting Democratic president are both private citizens who have some kind of past affiliation with presidential politics. So, like, again, Williamson ran for president 4 years ago. RFK Jr.'s uncle was president, and then his father was killed. So, my point is that I just want you to think about how, out of all the people that are challenging Biden, it's not a coincidence that the only two who are in this race are both private citizens who effectively have nothing to lose. They're not Democratic officials that are going to be kicked out of the party. RFK Jr. is already kind of a pariah in his own family because they've done letters announcing their opposition to his candidacy and rebuking him. But you get the idea that like there's a pattern here where the only people who want to take a stand are those that are not in any government or elected office position. Honestly, I'm not even saying this to be funny, Aaron. You're more likely to see like the Supreme Court justices be like, "Hey, Biden is kind of old," than you are to see any of the Democrats in the House or Senate admit that. And the scary part is that anytime one of them breaks the mold a little bit and calls out something obvious, they get condemned for it. Look at Ro Khanna. He said Feinstein, the fossil that she is, needs to step down, not because of her age, but because she's out of commission and is blocking Biden from being able to pass his judges. And you had Pelosi, a lady that Roe has defended. I criticized him for defending. The same lady he defended came out and said that his comment was mirrored in sexism. But that's why I said if you make the most basic, obvious observations about these people and how demented they are, how ineffective they are, usually they can't even respond to your actual points. They just smear you as something. Oh, you criticize this old lady that won't show up to the Senate and do her job. Oh, you're sexist, even though you're critiquing her over being absent to her job for 3 months, which would get any normal person fired. Um, that was ridiculous. Susan B. Anthony would not have approved of Nancy saying that. Well, Aaron, to be fair, the only Nancy you ever liked was Nancy Reagan. So you always were impartial to Pelosi. And remember, if you talk about the Israeli government and the way they treat Palestinians, you're accused of being anti-Semitic. Even though we've explained this repeatedly that governments don't have religions. Uh, nobody here has a I mean, it's just you know what I'm saying, that like there are certain critiques you can make that are very basic in their observation. Uh, and you'll still get like you just get smeared. There is no rebuttal to it. That's why I said that's like a lot of. I'm not saying it's be funny, but for the last maybe I'd say 6 years, probably since the 2016 cycle, Republicans have really been running on the Red Scare. No, that was you, Aaron, because you had that you were part of that Just Say No campaign in the 80s. You got a lot of young people off of those drugs. I was very proud of you. I gave you a round of applause. Damn, I think I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, I was saying they run on the Red Scare where they can't talk about wages being stagnant, right? They can't talk about the last time we had a minimum wage increase. It was over 10 years ago. They can't talk about the need to strengthen unions and have collective bargaining. They can't talk about 63 to 64% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. They can't talk about the trillion of dollars in student loan debt. So what do? They tell you anyone who wants to solve these issues is a socialist. They want to make this into a socialist country. They're communist. They want to take all your money. They want to take all your guns. And you'll sit here and be like, isn't it sad that if you just want to help somebody, like you want to use government to help people, you're called a term that has nothing to do with what you're proposing. Like what does socialism have to do with, hey, I think people should get paid an extra $2 per hour? But that's why I said that like they really run elections this way where if you talk about wanting anything to be free, socialists, and the stuff you're asking for, they do all the time in other countries that are not. Oh my God, you want healthcare to be free like uh the UK and Sweden and Denmark? Ah, you're socialist. You want to raise taxes. I tell you, man, people just throw out these terms and they don't know what they mean. They don't care what they mean. They just want to make things sound worse than they actually are. They want to make you seem like you're this extremely insane person that's going to destroy the US. It's and like I said, the reason a lot of that stuff doesn't work, like when they were talking about the debt ceiling and oh my God, we're going to default, is a lot of people are struggling. And someone who can't afford to a place to stay doesn't give a rat's behind about if we go into bankruptcy or if the debt that we default. They don't care because it has nothing to do with them. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of younger people who are struggling that are like more receptive to proposals that are not atypical of what we've seen from either party for the last 20, 30, 40 years. I always have to remind myself to finish this off before get back over there. Could you imagine living in your car and then somebody comes up to you and they're like, "So, what did you think of that new the Democrats wanting to give people reparations?" I'm like, okay, whatever. I remember this one guy came on my video and asked me if I supported that, and like I really struggled to answer, uh, because when I first got into this stuff, it was back in like 2013. Nobody talked about wanting to give somebody money as retribution for past grievances 100 years ago. As far as like no major, politicians were talking about doing that, I should say. I just feel really bad for Aaron. He tried to talk to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she said that she felt threatened, and he had to get a restraining order. I'm not even joking. Stuff like that really disturbs me because members of Congress, like a lot of times, they play like they're friends, like they like being together and being around each other and whatever. But when we get to a point where you can be on video arguing with somebody, right? And you're close to them, they're close to you. Neither one of you are backing down. And then after you get into that argument, you can then lie and say that you felt like you were afraid and that this person was going to do. I mean, it's all just a giant joke. It's all a big gag. Like these people, they do one thing and then say something else. But again, that's really scary because it means that we can't take anything you say as seriously or as something that we should actually believe. I remember that one time I turned the car on. It's got like the Bluetooth thing, and it started playing that ad like all loud. And I was like, "Oh, I hope I don't get demonetized." Like, wait, that wouldn't make any sense because they want the ad to be played. So if anything, that shouldn't cause any issue. That'd be funny if they're like, "Only we can play that ad. You can't play it in. You can't play the thing we put on top of your video in the video. That breaks the fourth dimension, the fourth wall, rather." I always mention one of my favorite YouTube videos, and it got taken down a long time ago. Along this guy's whole channel was when this one person they got flagged for like I think it was a violation of community guidelines, something like that. And he made a video where, in response, he played multiple videos that violated YouTube's supposed guidelines, but were still up, like the Zapruder film, and this guy jumping off a building, and another person trying to set themselves on fire. It was all and some kind of like ritual where that involved intercourse, all types of stuff that I was shocked was even on the site. I couldn't believe it. But really, I've always felt like the rules on YouTube are so what's the way of putting it? I never believed they were as strong as they try to make it sound like, because you can find stuff that's come out like that's been put up because YouTube always had a thing like about nudity, for example. You can find movies that are uploaded by people, not even like actual, like for example, if a organization comes on YouTube and says, "Look, guys, we have this movie. There's a scene with a bare chest or whatever." Okay, that's one thing, but I'm not even joking. In a lot of this stuff, you can have like full on nudity which is supposed to be against YouTube's guidelines, and then and people upload, like, the people who did not make the movie upload that as the movie, or upload the thing with it, with that in there, and they get away with it. There's no problem. Let's see who else is here. I see that Zoe left earlier. He had a little cameo and then he departed. I mean, it's fine by me. I'm not expecting people to just always, show up or whatever. I I know how this stuff usually goes. I am looking forward to getting back there and jumping in the bed, because I'm starting to feel the weight of, what was that, 3 hours of sleep on me. I'll never not be fascinated by how it can be early in the morning and you just always, and when I say early, I'm not even talking about like, oh, it's 7 a.m., which it is now, almost 7:30. But I'm talking about, like, it could be early in the morning, as in 3 or 4 in the morning. You still have people just driving around and stuff. I'm just like, does anyone ever sleep? Like, I get that we're all different or whatever, but I just, I'm fascinated by that, because you'll see it in real time, where you'll go down the street. There's maybe like 3 cars. It's 6 a.m., 5 a.m., and then it's 7, and now there's like 20 of them or 50 of them. It just increases so exponentially. And it'll be on a day where there's like no work either. So you would think people would be, indoors sleeping in. Because with me, my thing is, I come up here because at my place, I'm always worried about, oh, you're making too much noise. And I'm trying, that type of thing from happening. But again, like, there's a purpose to it. Some people are just driving around to God knows where. Hey, Justin in chat. I literally watched your previous stream twice. Pretty annoyed I couldn't attend to it. Was of interesting discussions and topics. Well, I always try to have something to say when I get on here. I was going to tell you that I was actually waiting for you to show up, because I wanted to mention this. And I did talk about it a little bit before when you were on another stream, but not to the extent here. So there's this job that wants to hire me part time, which already has me like turned off, because I don't want to work somewhere for 5, 10, 15, 20 hours and, not be able to take care of myself. I have to look for another job. Just all the little headaches, right? But anyways, when I first started trying to get with this job, the lady that I speak to interviews me. Then she sends me a 7-page document to fill out. I do the whole thing the first day. And the way she makes it sound is, you fill this thing out in 3 days, you can start working next Tuesday. I'm like, all right, great. So I fill it out. Then this other person sends me some more pages of some document. And one of the things I instantly noticed that's weird is that they want to see my high school diploma. Now, I pledge this to you. I have worked for 5 different companies, agencies, whatever you want to call them. And sometimes they wanted to see, social security number, if you're a driver, your license, whatever. I've never had any of these places need to see my diploma or highest level of education, whatever you want to call it. Usually what they do is they ask me what it was. I put it in there, the year. And then if they don't believe me, they can go and call the school up and go, hey, so did this person go here? They don't, they can verify it themselves. But the real issue is that since I left from the place I was at, it's from before up until January, I'm not entirely sure of where it is. And it's one of those things where I just want you to understand, if this was a full-time job, I would say, okay, look, this is stupid. It's unnecessary. There's no reason why they need to have this thing where everywhere else didn't, but I'm still going to do it anyway because only place that's hired me. But knowing that they're just going to have me on for maybe like 15, 20 hours a week, and then on top of that probably get rid of me after a few weeks, I'm not like fighting it as hard as I normally would, like, oh damn, I have to go get this and make sure, because again, either way you're going to end up with some job that's not paying you enough to survive off of. So that was my thing. It's just really weird that they want me to get a to send them a picture of my diploma, because that's not a normal thing employers want to see. um and man, the process to get in, remember we talked about this, the dragged out process. Like, let me just illustrate how this has gone so far. First, they interview me. Then they have me fill out 7 pages of a document. Then they send me another several pages of a form. Then they have me take a TB test, which requires me to drive 45 minutes to one place and another 45 back. They tell me that the place is going to send them the results of the test. That turns out to be a damn lie, because then 2 days later they want me to go up there and get the paper. So that's 5 steps. Then I have to go and get the high school diploma, which requires me to get back in contact with a school I've literally had nothing to do with since I left from over there years ago. It's all just a hassle, man. So I've been quite disheartened by it. The process, honestly, to me, isn't worth it, especially if I'm looking for full time and only hiring part time. So I can totally relate. We get what I'm saying, right? That, like, if it was a full time job, I would say, okay, you know what? This is stupid. It's unnecessary. I don't like it. But again, they're giving me full hours. I've been looking for this for months. I'm still not getting what I want. And then being expected to do this anyway. That's why I said, man, it's just just a drag. Like, you can sit here and do all the stuff these places want. They will still have you just ripping and running and traveling here, flying there. At this point, I find it quite hard to take these places seriously. I do too, because every time they make it sound like you're what they want, or you've done what they want, they just move the goalpost. When that lady sent me those 7 pages, I said, okay, I'm gonna fill these out, and then we can get started next week. Guess what? You fill out those 7, they send you some more crap to fill out. The amount of steps and procedures you need to go through just to get hired at the damn place. I want to write it all in like a little like step by step process. It's been at least 7 or 8. Like, I expected the interview, I expect to fill some stuff out, whatever. But you have the interview, the initial filling out, the second filling out, the TB test. What's the other one? Getting the high school diploma. I mean, it's just I'm really irritated. I am. One thing I hate a lot is reference. Oh, they asked. So with references, for me, from what I've seen, it's usually, hey, people that you know that would speak highly of you, whatever. And I always think this is stupid, because not everybody is, I think you understand, not all of us have like 20, 30, 40 friends or people or associates we can just stick on a piece of paper and, expect them to talk positively of us. On the 7 page document, they asked me for 2 references that are not family members or employers, which is really weird, because you're going to either put someone that that, I mean, you know what I'm saying, like, if you ask me for references, I'm thinking it's going to be someone that I worked for, somebody that I did something under. So when you say no family members, no employers, like, okay, well, who else is left? But I got two people for that part. It's just like I've never seen that where they want to make sure like it's not someone related to and it's not someone you work for. Like, okay, well then what? I mean, that's kind of like that. Wouldn't that be most people that you would think of when you consider writing down a recommendation? Like who, you know what I mean? Like it's just weird. It's so incredibly goofy. Man, the process to get another diploma is just such a, I mean, and again, they want me to do this in like some time period of 10 days or whatever. And I'm just sitting here like, again, dragging my feet. Like, do I really want to do this to get hired by some place? They're going to get rid of me in 2 to 4 weeks anyway. And before that, not even barely pay me, give me enough hours to actually make something. Yeah. You know what? I actually did put on there the number of this person I used to, this woman I used to talk to. And I'm not joking. I put it there because I really couldn't like I have old numbers of people who are either deceased or switch phones, whatever. So I knew that one would work. But what I did was I said that like if they had called her and asked her about me, I would say, oh, the reason she responded that way is because we were like spurn lovers and we were involved at one point and it ended very badly, which is not entirely off, but still they not like any romantic thing, but I would make it seem that way. Because like I said, I don't even take this seriously anymore. Like you're asking me to put down people that I'm not related to or worked with. I mean, what do you who do you expect me to dig up? They're like, hey, she said that you treated her very badly. I'm like, we look. I didn't want to say this, but we had a very long, intimate affair that lasted about 11 or 12 months, and we were involved professionally at one point, and that turned into a office romance with candlelit dinners and meetings across the town. And she really turned me around. But at a certain point, it just became too toxic, and I cut off all contact with her. And I don't know what else to say. I really, I think her opinion on me is very biased in a very negative and unfair manner. So, man, this whole thing is a joke. I can only assume that's what they wanted. I was like, I really hope they don't call her because I've got my whole story planned out. We have the whole romantic tale from beginning, middle, and end, just plotted and mapped. That company was low key creeping on you. They want everything, man. Send me a picture of this. Send me a picture of that. Well, my thing is employers, from what I've seen, usually don't even call reference numbers. Like all the ones I've put down have never said they've been called by them. But like I said, in that instance, it was just me kind of being like, all right, well, I guess I'll have a little bit of fun with this. Because I'm not joking. I don't have like some large list of non-relatives, non-employers to put down on there. Yeah, I've noticed some companies are like overly invasive. Yeah. Remember, a lot of employers and people you work with are invasive. Like I think I told you that the last job I worked, the assistant manager asked me if I had a girlfriend. And then the one that caused me to do the speed up session stream, you should be done. That one asked me how old I was. I'm like, just it just started getting weird. But like I said, when women do that to a man, it's a-okay. It's all right. It's fine. Shh. Be very, very quiet. But then when you do it to a woman, oh, here comes the lawsuits and Gloria Allred, and he touched me back in 2001. Just those double standards, man. They're going to be the death of us. What the hell has that got to do with anything? Well, you remember I'm sitting. That's what was my reaction, because what it is I think these people, they want to get, I guess, get to know someone and make conversation, but the stuff they ask is kind of invasive. And I swear to you, I'm like the most when I come to do a job, I come to the job. I don't ask people, what do you like to read, what do you like to watch, what do you like to play, how many times you've sang songs in the shower. Like, I'm just there to do the job. And like, again, I'll have small talk here and there, but there's still like certain levels to it. Like, I never would feel comfortable enough, especially with a female coworker, to be like, "Hey, so are you married, or do you have a girlfriend, or do you have a boyfriend, or any kids?" Like it. Anything I know about those people, they told me without me asking for it, or I heard them say to somebody else. I care like literally nothing about their personal life or what they, because it doesn't have anything to do with the job. I'm just there to work. Aaron says, we've got classmates and regular friends, I guess, but I don't know why they'd want that. Look at me, says that is very messed up. I felt so, and remember, like when you respond a certain way, they just assume more stuff. Like I said, I don't have one, and the lady's like, "Oh, you're enjoying the single life." I'm like, yeah, it's real funny that you think this is a choice, but okay. There was one time where there was like a lady that was with internet, and I was in the market, and I like walked past her, and I swear these people all have like the same playbook. She says something complimentary about my attire, then like starts asking me about what kind of internet I have and like how much I pay per month, and ask me if I like, unless I have like a roommate. They're like, "Oh, you pay for it with your wife or your girlfriend?" And I'm just in the back of my head trying so hard not to laugh, because it's so far off from reality. Like, you are. It kind of reminds me that one time there was, like, I hate to keep bringing up like past stuff, but there was this instance where I went to a market, and some like elderly lady walked past me and asked me if I was the dad of this like woman, had some baby in a stroller or whatever, and I said no. Um, Again, but you get that, why that would be funny to me, because it's like so far off from what you actually are. Like, it's the complete opposite of reality. Like, I like when you've had such an incredibly impossible time, again, getting like the most basic of affections from women, and then you have someone who's like, "Oh, you live with your wife or your girlfriend." It's like, it's just so opposite of what's actually going on. It's completely optional. What matters most is you doing the work and not trying converse with others in mindless chatter. I'm telling you, the only time I tried to really get to know someone up there was that one lady who I literally just talked about the news with. I didn't ask, anything about her personal life or whatever. Anything that she said was volunteered. And you saw what the reward I got when I asked what her hobbies were and was told about her being on some trip with her boyfriend. I just rolled my eyes and closed my computer screen. I was like, God, man, these chicks, they really think like every man that meets them has this like master plan with schematics on how he's gonna attract her. It is nuts, dude. Like, interactions like that make me really just, outside of running for something or doing some other kind of like campaign-esque activity, I really don't. And of course, when you go and you eat somewhere and there's like a female bartender or waiter, whatever, waitress, um, I really don't want anything else to do with chicks. Like, I'm just tired of all the weird stuff with them, and the aggression and the accusation. Like, I'm serious. I feel uncomfortable knowing that this is what goes through their mind. Like, you can be the most just regular, non attempting to do anything romantic person, and they'll just assume if you want to do anything with them at all, you're like, I will date her. It's so stupid. That's why I said they can get lost. When I saw that DM, when I saw that email, I want to spell on the screen. It really is just a sad state of affairs. I told you I don't fall for the triangle scam anymore, man. I see attractive women every single at least week. I'm not going to say every day, but women I think look nice or whatever. But you will never see me trying to swirl around any of them. Forget that. It never was like this 20 or so years ago. Oh no. I'll tell you, my thing is I really feel like because Facebook started in 2004, but it really didn't become like a household thing until maybe about 5 years later. And even though it's kind of like died out, places like Twitter and Instagram kind of like have filled the void a little bit. I really think if I was born in like the 80s and like let's say early 80s, maybe mid 80s, and was like in high school, before like let's say early 2000s, 2001, you would have seen a completely different result. Like that really is the only difference. There's no internet, there's no 50 guys trying to talk to one woman. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it really highlights how different things were back then till now. Much more genuine and humble. Oh, broken records are fine here. I mean, I said before that like when I was talking to my friend about various civil rights leaders that he should be at least familiar with. And I asked him, so are you going to try to remember this specific one? He said, maybe. I just, all right, well, forget it. Like that's when in my mind I was like, I'm done being a broken record. But as far as like on the internet, I'm not against repeating stuff because there's always a chance that someone who sees one stream hasn't seen previous ones. You never know. Um, Only time I have a problem repeating stuff is when people are very presumptuous. Like you remember, we used to have that one guy who claimed to be a woman. I don't believe it was a woman, but there was like a some guy that was like, "Oh, you don't ask out women. How do you expect to ever meet?" Was like, idiot. We literally have discussed several times in the past asking them out, getting the same result, and then that caused you to just say, "All right, forget it." Well, you know what I'm saying, that like when it's on the internet, you don't know who's watched what order they've watched stuff in. I only get irritated in real life because you're literally telling the same person who you see multiple times every week the same thing over and over again, and they are choosing to not retain it because they don't care and they're just wasting your time. And I tell you, that crazy person gonna talk about there's more to life than just politics. I'm like, dude, who are you even talking to? Because I even made this point like to him in that moment. Uh, there's no one who's got more diverse interest than me. I mean, this is someone I've sat down and talked about chicks with, for example, movies with, shows, just to even say that about me, like I have this one track mind and that's the only thing I'm interested in, is it's just garbage. And I said that directly to him. But I was also, and that's why I made the stream, and I called it the mundane existence. You really have these people who they just do whatever it supposedly takes to get by. They have no vested interest in anything above themselves. Well, Magumi, I'll give you an example. If I was a British citizen, I'm just giving you an example. I would ideally like for each British citizen, someone who lives in the UK, right, to be familiar with, at the very least, the Queen, again because of how long, her very extremely long tenure as your reigning monarch, her son because he's the current monarch, her dad because he was her direct predecessor that led to the longest reign ever. Was that George V? Hell, I probably got his name wrong. You're probably gonna laugh at me, but the three of them. I'd say Diana because she's this big giant icon that people all are familiar with to some degree or another. And then probably all the prime ministers start at the very least the modern ones starting from Churchill onward. And again, you don't have to know everything about them. You don't have to know where they were born, where they went to school. But like the very base thing of like, oh, you hear the name Thatcher, and that's a prime minister. You hear Tony Blair, that's a prime minister. David Cameron, I mean, what I'm getting at is you don't have to be especially into something to have the most basic familiarity with it. Is what I'm getting at. So they are very narrow-minded, and it goes back to my thing of how even when information is presented, because like for example, I don't expect someone who doesn't care about history to go and read some 900-page biography on a different, like a politician, activist, whatever. Um, but when someone sits them down and says, okay, here's this person, the most important things they did were this, that, or the other, and then you still can't retain it even when it's being conveyed to you in a format that is more specifically designed for your lack of interest in absorbing the full context of their story, that makes you even more ridiculous. Well, I mean, I think every British person, really everybody should know who Winston Churchill is. He's considered one of the most influential figures of the 20th century. He gets quoted by people who aren't even from his own damn country. That's how much of an icon he is. Yes, they and the reason they're content with being ignorant is not because it's like a punishment to be smart, right? Or to know this stuff. You're not going to get in trouble for it. They're content with being ignorant because their existences are not predicated on anything above themselves. They don't care if they don't know, for example, who made the NHS or any other major policy that affects them. As long as they can use it, what difference does it make, right? That's why I said they have no curiosity. They have no basic sense or understanding of their own damn country. I mean, they just don't care because again, they have mundane existences. They live to go to school or work and get their degree or their job and then work that and do whatever little basic stuff they need to survive until they croak. That's them. And again, that doesn't mean that. And and Megumi, I hope you understand. Um, I am not saying that because somebody, for example, doesn't want to become a politician or famous person, like they have mundane existence. Because I know people who, for example, who worked regular jobs, but if you go up and you start talking to them about the news or some singer, they know who that is, or they're like open to listening to you or asking questions. They actually are interested in having a conversation about this. But a lot of these people, again, their existence is just I'm going to go and work my little job or go to school. And then when I get home, maybe I'll hang out with my stupid friend or I'll play some music or whatever. That's why they know what's so sad, Megumi, and maybe you don't understand my perspective as an African American. I'll just try to I just hope you can kind of get this for me. Okay. Do you understand where it's extremely ridiculous that when I'm telling this guy about influential African American historical figures, activists, poets, whatever, for them to respond to that by saying there's more to life than just politics. You understand? We're like they're giving like an extremely dumbed down response that doesn't actually respond to what's being said, right? Like when I'm saying it's not okay that you don't know who these very basic black people in American history are, and their response is there's more to life than this. It's like, well, I mean, hell, what exactly more are you doing in the first place? Like literally what they said is something I should say, except about something else. Like I should say there's more to life than music or working some crappy job that you hate or that has nothing to do with the degree that you went to school for. Seriously, man, like I'm embarrassed. Yeah, exactly. That kind of thinking I feel is dangerous and very limiting to themselves. Well, I said before, this is a person that when they don't know something, very seldom can they actually admit they don't know it. So I gave the example of how I asked them if they knew what single payer healthcare is. That's what, I mean, that's what you guys have in, the UK, for example. NHS is basically, it is like a single, it's a single government system. And this person responds is, it's healthcare for single parents. But yeah, it is very dangerous. I guess he overloaded on the depth of conversation. What did he want to talk about? Stamp collecting. I tell you, the saddest part is I'm not against any hobby that somebody might have. Um, Again, some people like to read, some people like to draw, some people like to collect stuff, whatever. I'm not against any of that. Even things I don't do, like as long as it's something I think is productive and it's like a thing you're passionate about, it's not hurting anybody. I don't have a problem with it. But what drives me crazy is when you sit someone down and you say, okay, why do you have such a disposition towards just learning basic stuff about very basic historical figures? What kind of a response is that? Damn. And Megumi, what's so sad is that like part of the reason I know a lot about the stuff I know a lot about or feel like I know information is because I admitted to myself almost 10 years ago, I don't know that much about this. And and even now, there's still stuff I admit I don't know much about this. So when you don't know something, and remember, he's not taking a test where it's like, okay, I'm in class, I'm gonna look stupid in front of the kids. You're in front of someone who you consider a friend, and you can't even admit, like, okay, I don't know what this is. You have to pretend that you know what it is, and like kind of smile and giggle. And I mean, it was embarrassing, man. And it wasn't embarrassing because he didn't know. It's embarrassing because he can't just admit I don't know what this is. I wouldn't think he was stupid for not knowing it. A lot of Americans don't know what single payer healthcare is because a lot of Americans are not told about the healthcare systems in other countries. They just all they know about healthcare is it's this thing you use, so you have to pay that much money or money at all when you go to get care from the doctor, and usually it's tied to some job that'll throw you away in a heartbeat. I'm not even joking. If like I'm not even saying this to be funny. If the employer thing stays the same for the next several years and like I run for office and lose like multiple times, I actually would consider moving to the UK literally just to get healthcare because these employers like I'm never I don't think I'm gonna get to a point of trusting them ever. They will throw you away so quickly over the stupidest stuff and then you'll be screwed. So I might go over there, Megumi. It depends on how stuff goes over the next several years, but I'm really not joking when I say that. That's one of my biggest concerns about the future. Just how quickly employers will throw somebody away and leave them with nothing. There's more to life than just. And dude, I swear I keep repeating that in my head because I'm like, what the hell is this person even doing to where they can even boast about saying something like that, you know? Like are they involved in their community and addressing issues of violence and poverty and making some positive impact? No, are they creating some film or documentary or other type of work that is of some unique essence? Nothing. That like this person literally has nothing that they to where they even should be in a position to say to me, there's more to life than anything. They're not making the most of themselves in any capacity. Like, even if I work some job I don't like that much, I'm still coming on here. I'm still trying to do documentaries and all types of other edited videos. I mean, at least I'm trying. Like, these people don't do any damn thing. They just work their little job and then they go home and they go and watch TV or sit on the computer until they eventually fall asleep. I mean, that's why I said they have mundane existences, but it's like the the person with the mundane existence is trying to do this like weird holier than thou thing, and it just didn't work for him. It really is scary knowing how rancid these employers can be. And it's even worse when you remember that over here, they really do control if you get free access to a doctor or cheaper access to a doctor, um, or if you just have to pay some giant price out of pocket. It's really disturbing. But that's why I told you I don't feel bad about when something happens in one of these jobs. I don't even care if somebody steals their stuff, if the manager gets mad because whatever. I don't care because I know they don't care about me. They have a bottom line they want to meet, and when it isn't met, they'll toss you away like an empty potato chip bag. Ball you up, throw you in the trash. I'm really not joking when I say that, like, you can look at someone who just makes YouTube videos and say like, oh, that person's not doing anything, whatever. But when I do a documentary, on average, it involves me researching, getting clips. Um, it's a very involved process, which is why I don't do it that often. But you get the idea that like that's something that if I actually finish it, I feel good about. And it's not just and that's something I do even if I'm not working the most lucrative job or job I like the most or whatever, because I don't feel like this is all I'm ever going to be. And like I said, I was just thinking about how we had this school. This was about 2 or 3 months ago, maybe 2 months ago. We had a strike. Was it LAUSD? It was one of the schools districts, but there was basically a bunch of teachers, bus drivers, people just involved in that whole school system, right? They boycotted. They went on protest. They went on strike. They wanted higher wages. They wanted more hours with their family. They had a lot of grievances, right? And I tell this person about this, and they say, with regard to the LAUSD workers that are on strike, they knew what they signed up for. Aaron says, dude, you're doing more for the news at this point than most major networks, and you look better. Oh, I guess thanks. Well, Megumi, it's crazy because remember, this isn't some big time CEO saying that. This is a guy who I'll put it to you like this, because I don't like putting anybody's stuff out there, but this is someone who is in no better economic situation than those people. And that's one of the reasons why workers are always going to get screwed over. They're always going to be the butt of the joke when it comes to just the way that stuff works here, because they hate each other. They have this weird antagonism and animosity and lack of compassion for their fellow human being. I've never looked at anyone protesting and said, "Hey, you got what you yeah, that you got what you were supposed to expect." I've said repeatedly, I've always admired teachers because these people will sit here and grade 50, 60, 70, 80 goddamn papers, get paid basically nothing, and still come back to the job and make another attempt. So anytime one of them wants to strike or have a protest or whatever, I'll be the first one to go to say I'll join hands with them. That's why I said it's so crazy to me that like regular people speak this way about other regular people. Like they have this lack of empathy. And there again, it's when something Megumi, there's one line, always remember, most important thing I ever said. When something doesn't affect another person, they don't care. It could be the most basic thing, like, hey, this guy's homeless. Oh, we have 2 extra beds in our place. Well, oh well. Oh, these workers, they want some extra money. It's not coming out of our pocket. We should support them. They knew what they signed up for. Seriously, like I'll never not be amazed by the depths of hatred that people have for their fellow human being. They don't care if it doesn't affect them. Um, and I mean, you know that from the fact that he didn't even know what was going on until I mentioned it, even though it was all over the news, the local news anyway. But I forgot these people don't watch the news. And by the way, Megumi, I was going to ask you, like, okay, I get that you're not into politics, whatever, but I just want to ask you if this makes sense. You live in a country where almost, I think it's like almost half the households have guns. You live in a country where there's car crashes and car accidents all the damn time, especially in your state because it's the one with the most people in it, most cars by extension. Does it make sense to just not watch any news? Like we're not even talking about just like one of the big news, but like any local news, any news about your area. Does that make sense to you? To just never look up any news under any circumstance. Just again, you just go to work and then you come home and you have no idea what's happening outside of your bubble or if somebody that watches the news tells you. Do you think that makes any sense? Dude, I swear to you. Um, the person I've been staying with, the one that was fine with me being homeless, they don't watch the news. And neither does this guy. And the only time they hear about anything on the news is either on Facebook, because that's the most reliable news source, or if somebody that watches it like myself tells them. I'm not even joking. I've actually had both of them posit, and they don't know each other, and they really don't even like each other. But I've actually had both of them posit the idea that it's okay for them to not watch the news or to not research things because they can ask me about it and I can tell them. So like I'm basically a living crutch for them to be like to get away with being lazy. But then full damn well that if you can just not tell them something, they won't ask you, hey, what happened today? What occurred? But see, this goes back, doesn't it mean like you're being used by them as well? Oh yeah. I mean, hey, why do you think one of them tried to 5 times increase the amount I was paying every month? But Megumi, I want you to understand something. When I talk about the mundane existence, I'm not even just talking about like, okay, you don't know basic historical figures. I'm talking about, because remember what I said earlier, right? It's these people who's like they exist to go work some job and then get home and go to sleep or do whatever little stuff they like doing, and then the next day the same thing happens again. And there's no like higher sense of purpose or depth. You understand that like them not watching the news goes along with that, right? Where not only do they not care about any historical events, they don't even care what's going on around them. They could have, and I said this before, they could have a serial killer in their neighborhood and they wouldn't even know. I'm telling you, man, I don't know how a normal person with as dangerous as the US is could just sit here and every night be like, well, I guess I'll go to my job and then I'll go and sit and watch some sitcoms or some other crap until I go to sleep and then repeat it next day and next day after that. I really don't understand how anybody lives like that. I'm not even saying to be funny or to try and impose my view. I don't understand how these aren't kids, how an adult in their 20s and 40s could know that they live in a country with daily mass shootings, daily car crashes, and just they don't even it doesn't even occur to them to watch the news or to see what's going on. Nothing. They don't want to be disturbed in their little bubble with something may eventually fall upon them. They are forced to confront with, oh yeah. But I hope you get what I'm saying. That when I said that term, I'm not. This isn't about me attacking people who don't like politics. It's about me attacking ignorance and the fact that people are fine with just being completely unaware of the most basic of stuff. Like on the news, they'll say, "Hey, there's been a car accident on this street or the street 3 blocks down." These people, because they don't watch the news, guess what? The only way they won't find out about the car accident until it blocks them from going to work. So that's what I'm talking about. This isn't attacking people who don't like what I like. It's about acknowledging that some people literally exist just to go and work some job and go home and play a game or talk to their friend or get drunk and then do the same thing all over again. They're fine with not knowing any historical events. They're fine with not knowing any important people that have actually done things to better their lives before they even started. They're fine with not knowing any current events. They're fine with like their ignorance is just it's a-okay as long as they can get their little stupid job and work there for months or years and pay their rent every month. They don't care about anything besides that. The sum total of their existence is let me go work my job, pay this bill, and then that's it. And I get some rest when I get home. You're attacking the ignorance based on torpor, and you're quite right too. Well, like I said, man, I've never seen a single person argue with any merit that it's better to not know something than to know something. Not a single one. Who's better off just not watching the news and knowing what the hell's going on than the person who watches it and is informed. I don't see the point of that. Oh, ignorance is definitely bliss. And dude, sometimes their ignorance astonishes me. Like you remember how people will say, "Man, that person's really smart. I'm amazed. That person's a genius." I'm sometimes amazed by the depths of their stupidity. When we had the Uvalde shooting last year, these poor innocent babies were gunned down. It was all over the news, man. It was on every TV station. People don't even watch the news like the one I live with. They knew about it because they heard about it from me and somebody else. I asked this guy, "Hey, did you hear about that shooting?" He's like, "No." And it's the weirdest thing because I'm like, how do you live on a at the time a college campus, or I guess go to college, whatever, and you don't hear about a school shooting that was in the net. But then it dawned on me that, like, for this guy, he just goes to his little classes, and then he goes to his part-time job, whatever, and they don't have any TVs there or whatever. And then he goes home and he sits there and watches a movie, and, like, I'm serious, like, these people really just don't know what's going on at all. Sometimes you can have a story that everyone's heard of, and there will be someone who is basically forcing themselves to live under a rock who has no idea. I was shocked. That shooting was in the news every minute of every day for like a whole week. Like, there have been very few times where I'm just like, "What? You really don't know this?" And that was one of those times. I couldn't believe it. I can kind of get people just wanting to keep their rent, keep their zen or whatever, but then they go and have an opinion about. Well, listen, Aaron, you can't be ignorant and not and like try to portray yourself as not caring, right? But then you have an opinion. Like, if I say I don't care about sports, I don't know any of the players, I just don't care, right? And then I tell you, but the Spurs are the best team. It's like, well, you're the one who doesn't even know any of the other teams. So the problem I have is a lot of times these people, they'll have an opinion on something, but they don't know anything hardly about the damn topic. So they're just kind of, yeah, that doesn't work. The two things don't correlate. By the way, Megumi, you'll get a kick out of this. This same person, I mentioned on the other stream, they said that TASM 2, which I think is one of the worst superhero films ever made, was the best Spider-Man movie. But here's the caveat. They haven't seen the Raimi trilogy literally since they came out. So I just want you to understand that, like, the person who's saying that this really awful film is the best one somehow hasn't even seen half of them in 10 plus years and has like really no memory of them at all. So they're trying to assert a an opinion based in it, like based in part on ignorance. No, really, like I said to them, because remember, this is the same person. Well, this is the same person who said they don't rewatch anything, which is crazy as hell to me. Because okay, whatever. So, like, they admitted they haven't seen this stuff since it came out. Oh, it has to be on TV for me to see it. I have to catch it one of these days. Of course, they're not actually going to do that because they don't care enough to do that, but they care enough to have an opinion, which is, again, their opinion is based on ignorance. So they're the same person who said Rogue One was the best Star Wars movie, but then they haven't seen any of the original 6 films since they were a kid, and the only thing they're comparing it to is the other Disney films, which have received mixed reception, to say the least. So you get where they assert something like, look, if you haven't seen some a long time, whatever, but they assert something from a place of ignorance. No, Winter, they saw the prequels when they were a kid, but let me tell you how ignorant they are. I was talking about, at the end of I made some comments about how in the sequel trilogy, I don't like that they kill Luke off, and, like, then the only one Jedi again, it's redundant. And they're like, but what about Obi-Wan? Like, what about Obi-Wan? He literally died in episode 4. They forgot that the prequels were set before the originals. Like, that's how little they know about what this stuff. And again, I wouldn't even care, but you can't assert an opinion on something that you don't know anything about. Their opinion on this stuff holds no weight whatsoever if that's the case. It doesn't. Dude, I'm not even joking. they claim they don't. So um out of nowhere they decided to watch a horror movie, and the horror movie is a sequel to another film, right? And they watched the sequel before watching the like the first two before that. For what reason, I have no idea. It was on their streaming service. So then they watch the sequel to the third film, which the third film is the first one they saw, right? And then after seeing the fourth one, they talk about how bad the fourth one is. And I'm like, wait, so you're gonna say the third one is like the best one to you, but you've only seen two of them. And what, like, who starts a series from the third chapter? And remember, they don't, like, again, they don't care enough to actually go back and rewatch the earlier ones so they can now formulate an opinion on, hey, is this a good story? Does it all tie in together? Whatever. But they care enough to have an opinion by saying the third one's the best one out of the two I've seen. And guess what? Because they're another one of these like go with the fad, recency bias type people. After that movie came out, I'd say 2-3 weeks later, they weren't talking about it anymore. And to this day, they've made no attempt whatsoever to look and see. I can't stand people like that. Dude, that reminds me, Megumi, somebody wrote a review. It got panned, but somebody wrote a review of Infinity War and they were like, characters aren't introduced. They're just thrown into the storm. Like, idiots. This is the 18th, 19th movie, and all these characters have shown up at least once before. They don't need to introduce them. That was the point of all the other damn movies. They said it's called setup. Oh my god. No, Megumi, that'll never not be the weird, because that person doesn't even like horror movies. They just turned on the third one in a series of four, said this was good, then didn't like the fourth one, and then we're like, okay, well, I'm done with this series. Like, it was just so weird, man. And they're so ignorant they can't even remember the main character's name. Oh, they're very aggravated. Um, it's hard to have an in-depth discussion with them about stuff when they just choose to be ignorant. Like, I gave the example of how somebody had told me that they hope I contracted HIV, and I was saying that that disease is nothing to play around with. It ravages the body, etc. And the person was like, "Oh, it does that." Like, yeah, I was like, "Yeah, look it up." It's that fundamental lack of media literacy. Well, again, it's the mundane existence. I'm going to do the bare minimum when it comes to knowing what I'm talking about, right? As far as like, hey, I'm not going to research anything. I'm not going to watch all the different pieces and parts so I know what I'm saying is true. But I'm also going to like have an opinion on things and try to argue from a place of ignorance. Oh yeah, because they told me that they purposely don't know I mentioned them before when I was talking about how it doesn't make any sense to me to know all these different singers and rappers that they don't even listen to, but then they don't know who actors are who have appeared in stuff that they've watched. And their response was that they don't kiss actors backsides. And I said to them, so if you know who someone is, you're kissing their backside, really? But they get off on ignorance, absolutely. You can't form an opinion on something you don't know anything about. Common sense. Dude, imagine what I would look like. Let me think of a series. Let me think of something. Okay, Megumi, imagine if I saw GT. Like let's say the only arc of GT I saw was the Super 17 arc, okay? And I'm like, man, Megumi, the best arc of GT's Super 17 arc when those two 17s merge and they have all those past villains showing up, and you're like, oh, what makes it better than the other arcs? Well, I haven't seen those in like 15 years, but I saw the Super 17 arc and it's the best one. Like, but so how do you know if it's the best if you can't even remember the other damn arcs? It's been so it's weird. I'm telling you, man, ignorance is one of the I'm really not joking when I say that I have been in good standing with people who have different opinions on things. Because there are people who don't agree with me politically and they know what they're talking about. They can like cite statistics and whatever. But I'm telling you, talking to ignorant people makes me die a little bit inside each time, because you're speaking to someone who they can, if they wanted to, they could know just as much about whatever given topic as you do, because there's nothing I know that you can't look up online or find through some other means, and they just don't care. And it's sad as well, because this means you weren't able to have a deep and in-depth discussion about something. Dude, I remember when we were talking about that third film, and I said they should have kept one of the characters they killed off into the fourth one, because that character like ends up basically having their role taken by somebody else, of like being the love interest for one of the protagonists. And the guy, and he was like, yeah, I was wondering why that guy was wearing a gown. I'm like, well, if you watched the second damn movie, it would have told you why, but whatever. There's more to life than just politics. And dude, it's like when he when he said that, you really would think that he was this extremely enlightened. Like if I tell you there's more to life than just chicks, I could say, hey, your career, your hobbies. But it's like this person doesn't have any of that. It's, I mean, you're an empty suit. You work some job that you don't even really like all that much. Again, no one's insulting you over that. That's a common thing. But then it's not like you're doing anything that is so much above the stuff we're talking about here, you know? I hadn't seen Winter in so long. He came back for a little cameo. But no, there's no chance of having an in-depth discussion. Very blanket statement. Well, you know what I'm saying? That like some people can make a comment like that, and there's like for example, if I said there's more to life than just streaming, and then I go, hey, you know, in real life, I'm also a community organizer. I'm also involved with my church, which I never would be, but just an example. Um, I do my own show, write books. Like, okay, a person who's doing all that can say there's more to life than just this one particular thing they do. Um, but if all you do is just work, you know, some job, and then you go home and you sit on the computer, I mean, like, and that's what drives me crazy. It's like, again, who is this person to assert something like that? And again, the person they're saying it to is the antithesis to that idea. Dude, when he said that that Tasm was better than the Raimi trilogy, I just thought it was the funniest thing in the world, because it's like his only memory of the trilogy is that Venom was in the third movie. Like that's like I'm really not even kidding when I say that. That's the only thing he could mention from it. Because when I was bringing up like, oh, James Franco got canceled, he couldn't even remember that he played Harry. So that guy is just This honestly is just so insane. It's crazy every time I hear it. Well, this person is nuts. The thing is, there are people online who have all types of opinions on media that I don't agree with, but at the very least, especially the ones that like, post big Twitter threads, YouTube videos, whatever, at the very least, they've seen the stuff and they can make adequate, even if you don't agree with it, they can provide reasons that make sense. When he's talking about how in the Tasm movies people die, it's like, yeah, in every single one of the Raimi films, somebody passes. I don't know how that makes for a good story, but whatever. Uh, so that's my point, that like when the actual substance of the argument is a non-starter like that doesn't even specify what's good about them, it's just even more nuts. He said, "Not this." If they didn't, it would be so boring and predictable, though. Wait, if who didn't? Again, I don't have a problem with people disagreeing, but when you're if they didn't die, okay, but you understand what I'm saying of how you can't say that makes like that one thing by itself makes one better than the other when it's in both. That would be like if I said, "Oh man, this second woman I'm dating, she's so much better than the first woman because she gets on top of me." It's like, well, what position did the first one do? Oh, she got on top of me. It's like, well, how is she better? It's the same thing. Oh yeah, Megumi. I defend those all the time. I'm not about to sit here and listen to any nonsense about them. Like I said, I'm confident of my position of them. Really, it's just one of those things where a lot of people. What happens, and this is something I've started noticing. You got to list more various aspects to describe what makes it stand out. Yeah, and dude, the TASM series literally only existed so that Sony could artificially hold on to the license before it reverted back to Marvel. Like literally, if they didn't have to make a movie every couple of years, then those two wouldn't even exist. That's what's so funny about it to me. Oh man, that reminds me of how like with X-Men Origins Wolverine, people thought that was a stupid title, but somebody explained that Fox had to put X-Men in the title or else they would lose the copyright, or the rights to make X-Men films. Anytime you have to like make something because you're going to lose a license, that's already a recipe for disaster. No, when that person said, maybe, I just rolled my eyes. I said, that's going to be the last time I ever try to talk to you like an adult about something that I feel passionate about ever again. Because again, what's the point? Like, people don't listen, they don't care. And, my thing is like, I've had people tell me things that maybe I wasn't the most interested in, whatever, but I would never, when someone's explaining something to me and they basically are pleading with me, hey, can you recall this? This is something that's important to me and I'd like for you to know about it. Maybe. So yeah, that's the end of them. Like I said, man, mundane. And you know what's so sad? Like I swear to you, there are so many hobbies and passions that people have that are not related to politics that I'm totally fine with them having. It's like I don't really care to listen attitude. Yeah, and that pisses me off, man. Like I said, ignorance in and of itself is not a problem for me if people are open to learning something. Like for example, um I'm not really, into computers, but I had one person, they said they wanted to show me some stuff. I said, all right, I'm open to learning about it. Now, of course, they never did, but still, it's like I didn't object to. I didn't say, oh no, I will not do this. I will purposely forget this. I will not retain. Like they show me something, I try to recall how it's done. I mean, so I said, people just like honestly, I'm the kind of person where I'm just open to stuff. Like somebody asked me wanted to go hiking. I said, all right, let's do it. Somebody said, you want to know how to build a house? Okay. Like I'm not against just learning stuff for the sake of knowing how to do it. Hell, when I was out on my own for the last 3 weeks, I learned how to wash stuff by hand. I'd never done that before. And then you put it out to dry. So again, I'm not against I mean, like I don't have a mundane existence. If something new appears and maybe it's not the first thing I ever would have done, I'm still open to it. I'm like, all right, well, let me see about this. People literally tune me out completely when I try to talk to them. Well, you get what I'm saying of how this isn't even just about like disagreements or anything like that. It's people having these extremely closed off minds where they care about nothing but themselves. And again, like I get we all have self-preservation, whatever, but it's like they care about nothing. Like they don't, and really honestly, I would still argue not watching the news is proof you don't care about yourself. Because like I said, if something happens in their neighborhood or around them, they're just not going to know about it. Having some curiosity about learning and trying different things honestly healthy, I think. Yeah. Well, Aaron, I'm already familiar with the settings. I know what buttons to click. And if you ever laugh at me while I'm having such a serious conversation, we'll make sure to show you the way out. And you can go back to Marianne's headquarters and tell her, "Hey, I tried to promote you, but he got rid of all my comments." And she'll go, "Oh, Aaron, I appreciate you for doing that for me." So you'll see how we handle things over here. Mm. No, I'm just saying that it's really sad that people are like really close minded. But truthfully, this is kind of how they are in their. I mean, if we're going beyond the whole like mundane existence thing, you can kind of see the close mindedness in their relationships too. I mean, remember all the chicks we talked about where it's like these bastards will tell you, and sometimes they're not even like. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Like they will swear off ever having children or ever getting married or anything like that. They're like, I will never do this. I'm like, damn, really? Never ever? Okay. I already said before that a lot of okay, I can sleep now. I'm just saying I noticed a pattern where it just seems like every kid that gets born now is by accident or it's in some kind of unmarried state. It's really sad. I think this also leads into ego as well. Like the people who are so convinced they know so much or know it all, they close off their minds to anything new that is presented to them and refuse to accept that they don't know about something. Well, they refuse, and a lot of times they don't care. That's why I gave the example of this guy said the queen had died back in, I think it was January or February of last year. I was like, there's no way that happened because if it did, it'd be all over the damn news. I go and I look it up. Sure enough, it's a BS story that this person saw. And again, they care enough to have an opinion on as far as like mentioning it and being surprised that this supposedly happened, but not enough to go and look it up and see if it's true or not. I'm laughing at myself there because I get obsessive about these things. Well, again, like fake news got out that way where people just don't care. They care enough to see it and maybe say something, but as far as taking the time to go, okay, did this really happen? It doesn't matter to them. And like I said, that should be really scary to everybody because it's like you care enough to say something about it, but not to actually verify it. Oh dear, the lack of chicks who aren't willing to have children at some point honestly is depressing. And dude, it's like I'm telling you, the only way I could think of to have that happen would be just like you meet some woman and you're kind of just having some little weird non-committal thing where you just bang and bang and bang, and then oh she gets knocked up. Like I don't want to do that because that's lazy and tacky and trite. And again, that's not how this is supposed to go. You're supposed to have two parents, excuse me, two adults with a clear goal of wanting to stay together, create a family, etc. Like I'm tired of broken homes. That needs to die. Like I said before, I don't want to have kids with multiple women and be put on child support or have the mother trying to say that the other one is turning her kid again. Just it's all tacky, dude. Like, and that's why I said that. I had the one idiot, Hove or whatever his stupid name was, talking about, oh, you're a kid. Like I've seen this before. I've met men with kids, with multiple different women, and even some who only have a kid with one woman that they're not married to. They get put on child support. Sometimes they go to jail. Or the woman holds the kid hostage. Hey, you don't give me this, you don't get to see your kid. But remember, if you mention this to anyone, you may get people double down on it by saying it isn't your decision, it's her body, etc. Oh yeah. Well, I told you before that they always talk about the I words and oh my god, misogynist, evil men online, but really, the guys are really saying nothing worse than the women say. Like, if you see some of the stuff chicks write about men on the computer, you really would be like, wow. Especially on Twitter. The only reason it doesn't get called anything is because we don't care what women say about men in general. Like we're not going to try to dramatize it. Like, oh my god, look at what this evil, uh, involuntarily by herself woman said. No, nobody's going to do that. No one has time for that. Nobody believes that. Women can say anything, look any way they want, and get men. That's just how it is. They can do whatever they like. All that plot armor. I swear, like they're so lucky. I have that rule about not showing anyone looks like, because if I went on Facebook and I showed you some of the women that have boyfriends and have been married, um, and like what they look like, eh, you would think I photoshopped it. No, men have no standards. I will be the first one to say that in general, men have no standards. That's how it is like. That's why, in a way, chicks are very lucky in regards to this too, in so many different ways. Yeah, everything is geared toward them. Think about it. Single woman, she's strong, independent, career oriented. Single man, there's something wrong with him. He's not good enough. He's ugly. I mean, you see it in every aspect of this stuff. If a man asks a woman out, oh, I don't like him, he's harassing me. If a woman asks a man out, what's wrong with you? She's into you. It's frowned upon if a guy doesn't reciprocate attraction to a woman, but if it's the other way around, the woman, is never wrong or at fault ever. Under no circumstance. Double standards is like we are living on veteran while they got that recruit difficulty. Well, Megumi and Winter. Megumi remembers the whole like outfit stuff. Women can wear whatever men wear, and nobody cares. But if a man wears any article of clothing that could be associated with women, it's like a horrible taboo thing. Remember that? I never actually told this story, but about 10 years ago, I used to have this red headband. And like basketball players have headbands, right? They like, they dribble the ball and they have the little white headbands. Sometimes they have their logo on there. I used to have this red headband. Red's my favorite color. And I'll never forget, one of my relatives was like, "You look gay." And remember, it's just a headband. It's a regular, I guess that whatever that stretchy material is, headband. And they insulted me over wearing it, and I felt bad because I'm like, I at the time I'm like 15, 14. I was like, wow, they're really being nasty to me over a headband. But they kept asserting that since this looks like something a woman would wear, even though it's just a regular unisex bold, like full color headband. But they tried to like assert the idea that to them this looks like something a woman would wear, so you should not wear it. There's something wrong with you, etc. The disparity. I'm telling you, man, the disparity is so bad that like you think it. Like I'll give you an example. If you go to a woman's house, she lives by herself and she has a drawer full of boxers. Nobody's gonna say she's a pervert or she's disgusting and why does she have men's underwear at her house? Or that there's something wrong with her if she puts on men's underwear because she likes to have a little crotch spot or whatever, or that likes the fabric. But guess what? If you go to a guy's house and you see some women's underwear there, oh my god, he's so disgusting. I told you, man, people will never understand like that. Like Megumi, I'm gonna keep mentioning this, not every stream, but just from time because I sometimes when I'm just out, I watch people, like I look at women and I see all of these beautiful clothes, like they have these blouses with ruffles and long sleeves and short sleeves and no sleeves, and some of them button up in the front, some of them don't. Like men kind of have that too a little bit, but nowhere near as distinct and unique looking with the various trimming and hedging. And then you get these dresses where like one part is black at the bottom and the other part it looks like a two-piece outfit on purpose. I mean, and again, I don't even, did I mention that there was like I was talking to my friend, there was a dress on, I think, Amazon, and it came in 42 different colors. They had red, blue, yellow, green, orange, navy blue, sky blue, some different floral designs, and I was like, God, man, yeah, like they had it in every single color, including various shades of different colors. When I go and I try to get a shirt off of there, they'll have it maybe in blue, red, green, gray, black, purple, but never in that many. Like that's why I said, man, their stuff is so distinct. Like, what's crazy, Winter? The disparity. That's like every damn color. I really think they had it in every color. Like I'm not joking when I say that. I if you just name the color, I'm pretty sure they had it on there for that dress. Like it was in everything, man. It had all the primary colors and then like all the different designs where you got white, but it's got flowers on it, and you have red, but with polka dots that are either black or white. It was crazy. I was like, God. I remember having to go on a hunt just to find a floral printed dress shirt I really wanted. Yeah, man, our stuff is just not distinct. It all looks the same. That's why I was laughing at the congresswoman that was mad that the um, senator came to the press conference wearing shorts and a hoodie. It's like, really, that's the big outrageous thing that you're going to sit here and post about on Twitter to your thousands and thousands of followers, really? Dude, even with their shoes, it's like distinct. Like with pumps, some pumps are like a heel that's all the way up here, like really high. Some are low. There's like a medium one too. Some are open toed, where like at the front you can see the like barefoot or whatever. I mean, it's I'm telling you, man, it's just so sad how few options we have compared to them. Like I swear to you, I really do feel like a damned caged animal with regard to like what stuff I can wear versus what stuff I'd like to wear. What got me was the Obama tan suit. People were really losing their heads over a change in color. And my thing is like, because there's some colors that I get it. Like if he came wearing a pink one, okay. If he came wearing some bright red one, whatever. But it was a color that people wear. Tan is a I've seen people in real life wear that. Other politicians wear it. I mean, I was shocked that like we're so desperate to control what men wear that if we simply get a damn suit in a different color, then we'll lose our minds over it. Because like I said, if a woman comes to her job or goes out wearing a tan dress, no one's gonna say, "Oh, damn, that looks so unprofessional." But if it's black, it's okay. And that's why I said the disparity, because it's not. Sometimes it's not even just about the outfits; it's the colors. Like all the formal stuff for guys has to be black, blue, maybe dark brown, maybe gray. But guess what? Women, whole spectrum of the rainbow. I'm not joking. Like, there's a reason why when you have like proms and homecoming and whatever, there's a reason why it'll take a hell of a lot longer for a woman, or I guess a girl at that point, to find a dress she likes versus the attire for a guy, because it's always the same thing, the same little stupid suit with the white shirt, black blazer, black pants. Yeah, tan is pretty tame, really. God, I hate the restrictions, man. Like, I'm Megumi, I hope you understand why, and I really do feel this way. I feel like women have everything and men have little to almost nothing. I really do feel that way. And we've gone over it with regard to this dating stuff, clothing choices. Because, like I said, when a woman wears what she wants to wear, nobody says, "Oh, damn, men will not like you. Men will think you're a lesbian." But if a man wears a certain outfit, oh, there's something wrong with him, and a woman will never like. They don't do that old red scare fear mongering thing. They don't try to hold us up as some boogeyman for you to be terrified of if you act out of line or don't follow our lead or our orders. Just it's God, man. I just feel so caged. Oh, this giant dog's somebody's car right there. That's a really sad way to look at it, but reflective and realistic way. Seriously. Well, again, I'm not just saying something to say it. I think I've explained why I feel that way. Like I feel like if I were female, this whole like crappy gang raped saga of trying to get a partner would almost certainly have not happened. I feel like if I were female, I definitely would not have anyone trying to tell me what I could or couldn't wear, or uh, you can't put this on, or you can't have your hair this length, or you can, none of this crap. Well, yeah, it's all homogenized. If you're a woman, individuality all the way. If you're a guy, you got to fit into that little box and be like everybody else. And I'm just tired of it, man. Like I said, I just wish I could be comfortable and like I just don't think society wants me to be. It feels like everything is designed around breaking more and more barriers for women, and if you're a guy, you got to fit into that tight little bubble. Neurotypical. Hey, Megumi, my favorite thing about the pumps was I asked this one person, I was like, how I don't know how anybody puts those on without like falling over. Like I'm sure you have to practice to walk around in that. You know what I'm talking about? Because it's like the foot is on top of something, and like you can't move it as quickly as you normally would if you're just wearing like regular shoes, or something that doesn't have the heel. Like I said, this stuff is just so sad to me, man. The lack of options in so many different fields. That's why I kept like floating the idea of the female clothing thing. But for me, that represents, and again, I don't know if I'll ever get to a point where I just feel comfortable with doing something like that regularly, but for me it represents the idea that we have fully moved beyond the point of caring anymore about what someone else says or thinks or wants you to do. Like that's all gone. Because now, if because like me wearing that stuff signifies that you really do not care what society thinks you can put on, can't put on. So, again, maybe in a year, 2 years, I'll be at that point. But I don't think anyone should be able to govern what I can put on or what I, because it's like it's already bad enough that they get to, by virtue of all the chicks being homogenized, um, you know, determine whether you're gonna have a partner, stuff like that. But they shouldn't be able to, uh dissuade you from wearing what you want to wear. Because really the biggest thing that stops me is just having that small group of relatives that I still have like some level, like that still have some level of access to me, and knowing that they would try to talk to me about it, and I just it's not a conversation that needs to happen. And then there is the stigmatized comments as well that come with it because of your gender. Yeah. And the whole time you're getting these comments, and the thing I've noticed is nobody in real life seems like they're, like, I'll put it to you this way. I believe most people, and this is me being nice, I believe most people couldn't care less what somebody has on. They might see it and notice it and be like, okay, that's not something I normally see, like internally. But as far as like, what are you doing? Why are you? No, most of them will not do that because again, people don't want to provoke somebody else. They don't want to start unnecessary crap that has nothing to do with anything. People may accuse you of being of have another sexual orientation. And you know what my response to that is, right? They were already doing that before. But you know what I'm saying? I really do believe most people, if you don't bother them, will not bother you. And again, they might look a second and be like, oh wow. But I truly believe most of them are, because I've said before, all the weird comments I get about why are you wearing it, I almost never get that in real life. It's always online. So I do believe that if I wore the chick stuff or put on that stuff, then you would most certainly, you would see very little like actual attempts to try to, assertively rebuff me, like, what's this? That type of thing. But again, I just have to get to a point where I truly don't care anymore, like at all, about what anyone thinks, or because again, I'm still not all the way there. Um, I feel like I'm getting closer and closer. Ideally, I would have preferred to live alone, because when you have all these damn cameras, it's hard to like. You know how it is, like I think Megumi, you've seen that before, where like maybe there's a movie or a show where somebody has like an outfit that they don't want somebody else to see them in, so they go in their car or somewhere else and switch into it. Um, it's harder to do that in the camera era, where like let's say you're parked right in front of your house, and then the person can, what I'm talking about. It's like, that's why I said I would ideally have preferred to live alone. Uh, but we'll make adjustments based off of what's available and what isn't. I just don't get why what someone else wears or puts on should matter to you. It's not physically hurting you in any way. Remember, I think I told you, I have people who are like, the group of relatives I have, which I've said are some of the worst of all time, have they develop strange obsessions and have backwards priorities. So one of them is so insane that like they noticed when I wore a shirt that was a different color. Like, that's how obsessed they are with clothes. Like to where they felt like they had to point up, like, "Oh my god, you have on this color shirt." I was like, "Can you relax?" But it really shouldn't matter to them. And again, I think for most people it doesn't. That's just me trying to, express my little remaining faith in humanity. In fact, actually, I would say if I went to a foreign country, like, because clothing differs from country to country sometimes, but like if I was somewhere like China, I certainly would feel more comfortable, because over there they don't have the same. I mean, yeah, the guys wear the suits, whatever, but it's I feel like they're not as, any stares I would give would be more due to my ethnicity than attire. Very relatable stuff here. I've gotten similar responses as well by some relative. Well, you understand what I'm saying. Always weirded me out too, why they make it to be such a big deal. You understand what I'm saying about how I don't want to um engage in that stuff as heavily, because I really don't want to have some kind be forced into having a conversation about this with people who I don't think are understanding or are going to respond to it in the most appropriate of manners. Um and are really just going to kind of like berate me or try to, confront me over it or whatever. It's not something that they should have a role in, because I just don't. I think at a certain point in someone's life, no one should be able to tell them what they can or can't wear, if as long as it's something that covers them and is not revealing, which, I mean, ironically enough, a lot of chick stuff is actually more covering, because you have dresses and gowns coming all kind of lengths and, coverings and whatnot. But my point is, I just don't think that at a certain point people should be able to, tell you what you can or can't wear if you're an adult. That's just my opinion. I don't care if you live with them. I don't care if they pay rent. I just don't think that it should be something they should be able to do. I really don't. So that's just my opinion. Dude, if they could freak out that much over me wearing a different color shirt, I'm just imagining the like reaction to a dress. Like it would be nuclear, man. Probably would throw in some homophobic comments while they're at it. Ugh, God, I don't even want to picture it. But like I said, if I'm not with them or if I'm unavailable, right, for them to reach any capacity, then it's not going to matter much. Like I said, I'm just imagining being, just I just like the idea of having so much confidence that you just put on with whatever you want and don't care at all like I just that is so appealing to me, man. If you were a little camouflage. I used to have a camouflage shirt that I had as my avatar on one of these. I forget which website it was, but like everybody kept accusing me of being in the military, so I just all right, forget it. You can't even wear a fun costume, a fun little out a shirt anymore without people trying to ask you if it means this or that. I mean, come on. That'd be the funniest thing if I walked past them with like pumps on, and as I'm like clacking on the ground and they're screaming about like, why are you wearing? I just have like I have headphones on too, so I'm just walking, just da, 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 just very slowly in the high heels, and then they can't. They're like, what is this? And they don't even realize they're so like angry. They don't even realize that I can't hear them. They're just talking to themselves. You know what I mean? Like I just think that would be funny. I remember that. I think it was Zeal talking about it. It would be weird seeing a man wearing pumps. Like, okay, we'll just look away. The only thing that would make me feel uncomfortable about them is it accentuates my height. Um, and also I know that you have to have some level of experience to walk in them and not feel like you're gonna fall over. At least depending on how high they are. And that is kind of like a new experience for me because I'm someone who likes to walk fast when I go somewhere. So having to like slow my step and you know one leg in front of the other, that would be a different type of thing. Like I said, man, I just like the idea of all this, all the like all the female stuff just looks really nice to me. Oh, Megumi, by the way, do you remember? So I did this stream. It was called She's a 10, and it was talking about how like it was really the first time I talked about this. I don't know if you remember, but there was a teacher I had mentioned about, like I had told you about, who had said like just while she was out in class, she preferred wearing skirts over pants because her legs could like flow together and there was nothing, covering them, and they were just kind of together and it was this very like open feeling. I looked on so for this stupid thing with this job, I looked on my school's old high school's like website. That teacher became the principal. I kid you not. I was shocked. Not because I thought, she was incompetent, but just like, wow, that's a hell of a promotion. I don't know when it happened, but it's the same one. Because I looked, I said, does anyone who taught me still go there? It's been, some years. It's like, oh wow. Yeah, I was very surprised. Because I liked the principal they had when I was there. He was a nice man. So it was just kind of funny that like that was like one of the most memorable things that she said, and like finding out that same instructor became the principal. That's wow. You just see my face when I looked at the staff. I was like, wait, okay, there she is, principal, huh? No, that was an unexpected development. But you know what it is? I didn't. I mean, when I leave from one of those places, I don't really bother looking back. Like I'm not actively checking out who still is here and who isn't. Um, so again, that's probably one of the biggest reasons. Because for me, it really does feel like it's just this place that was part of my life for a little bit, and then I was out of there. Oh, whereas them they stayed and they moved up the ranks. But look, it's now been almost 3 hours. I'm gonna get off of here because I'm having a bit of a stomach ache and I am still sleepy from having my sleep interrupted by the person that would not go to sleep for some reason until 4 in the morning or almost 5 in the morning, excuse me. So I'm gonna try to go back there and get some more rest and then come back out later and do my activities. So thanks for showing up, Megumi. Winter Fresh had a nice cameo. Aaron was here for a while. And then I think Akatsuki Merchant showed up for a brief, quick appearance. I appreciate it. These employers are insane. These ignorant people are nuts. And these female clothes are kind of hot. So thanks for showing up and have a good rest of your Monday. And I'll be back on Sunday, on Saturday.